you would be more interested in the GR Yaris versus the GR Corolla. Is that right?
100%. I was one of the
I
ones that
think,
signed that original petition. It's
yeah.
450 pounds lighter.
Yeah, yeah.
Granted,
I think,
it's small, but like
yeah,
that's I want a 2,800 pound turbocharged all-wheel drive car. Like who,
Sounds amazing, right?
even if
Yeah.
you don't think you want it and you're 6'5", I think you should reevaluate life.
welcome back, guys, to the Racecomp Engineering and the Apex Files podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Larry.
And today we have Mitch Meadows from MeLe Design Firm. Thanks for joining us, Mitch. Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm calling in from Portland, Oregon. Good old West Coast boy.
So tell us about MeLe Design Firm. First of all, how did you get the name? How did you come up with the name for MeLe?
Yeah, it was actually a combination of my first two letters of my last name and my original business partner's first two letters of his last name, which was Ledoux. When we combined them, because our first ever development car was a Subaru, we ended up linking all of it together. So if you look at the logo, I'll have to send you guys like an animated version of it, but it is the inner workings of a flat four EJ 257 in the logo. And the animated version is actually pretty dope because it's timed like the pulses of the like our shop car, our original development car.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we even like there's some old install videos floating around that I'll have to dig up that like every now and then when I play them, like, oh man, and it's like literally the animated logo and it's like the deep Subaru rumble, on cold start for the first 20-30 seconds where it's like ungodly loud, but it's timed like perfectly.
How did you? So the 2015 STI was your first Subaru, right? How did you? Yep. How did you decide on a Subaru at that point?
Yeah, well, you never had any Subarus beforehand.
I hadn't had a Subaru, but like, I mean, I've been a long time Colin McRae fan. Yeah, I know. Seriously, like, why didn't I own a Forester? Like, what the hell?
Were you born in a Subaru?
Yeah, seriously, I probably was, and just no one told me. I'm gonna have to go back and comb the medical records for that, like in 1985. Probably was like a Legacy or or like one of the Subaru L, like the L wagon or GL wagon.
Old wagons,
yeah. Or a Brat, probably. I mean, hell, it could have been Bucky's Brat. Like, God only knows.
Back to the Brat, right?
Yeah, I might be the one that buys that on Bring a Trailer. You never know. Yeah, no, the STI was. I mean, it was just the natural progression to have that platform and motor before it became obsolete. I was really worried that like they're gonna make them all direct injected, and you're going to lose some of that like classic rally heritage. So that was the single largest motivator to getting the VA chassis.
Which you weren't wrong about.
No, if you look, yeah, there is no STI currently, right? Like you just have the VA BWRX, and they don't sound nearly as cool. Now, maybe the motor's more reliable. Who knows? That's an internet debate in and of itself.
Yeah, they definitely make more power, and they're smoother. But I don't know, something about the EJ motors is just
it's like literally owning a piece of history. I mean, what does that motor date back to? Like the late 90s? Like they literally haven't changed it much. So like, yeah. So
we often talk about like what got us into cars in general or Subaru, and for me, Gran Turismo and rally in general, and him
definitely rally. But then my brothers, I was always hung out with my brother's older friends because they were driving at the time, and one of them, high school, had an 04 STI, brand new. I was like, holy shit, what is this thing? And I remember riding around in it, and the car felt so fast and nimble and lightweight. I was like, holy shit. And then ever since then, every single one of my brother's friends like have picked up a Subaru. He's one of my good friends who has a GR Corolla now. His first Subaru was a 06 WX, you know, blew the gears on it, trying to race somebody and put straight dead gears in afterwards. And then after that, I was like, this experience is crazy. I want all of this, you know?
Yep. I can remember the very first time we got the Bug-Eye WRX. I was in high school and I took a ride because somebody's parents bought the kid a 03 WRX. I know, like it's the same story. Like, who would give their kid an 04 STI? Like, God, that's a lot of car for like most grown adults, let alone a kid that will like literally race green light to green light. And even though what they're like 13-second cars, I mean, you can get them up to speed very quickly and find yourself in a pickle as soon as real corners cut and like brake inputs are required. So, but yeah, I mean, those are just like transforming experiences. And then like the Evo followed right after the WRX because Mitsu wanted to try and show Subaru up, and you're just like, oh my God, like that's the dream car. Like these legit rally homologation monsters at the time. And it's like they set the benchmark for everything we've made.
So you would be more interested in the GR Yaris versus the GR Corolla. Is that right?
100%. I was one of the ones that signed that original petition. It's
Yeah.
450 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
Granted,
I
it's small, but like,
yeah.
I want a 2,800 pound turbocharged all-wheel drive car. Like, who
Sounds amazing, right?
even if you don't think you want it and you're 6'5", I think you should reevaluate life. I'm luckily compact.
I think we're in the minority. I think most people want the Corolla, but I'm with you. And it's because it's kind of dumb. It's kind of a stupid looking, ridiculous car. And that's why I like it. It's just an absurd economy car that's 2,800 pounds, all-wheel drive, turbocharged. Yeah, I like
just
and they hold a ton of power.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what the Australians have been doing and like kind of leading the charge for that motor, they with very minimal modification so far, it's supporting like stupid amounts of power.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I would settle for a GR Corolla.
Yeah. The Corolla, I mean, it feels small. I mean, you know, the inside of ours, it's kind of funny. You fold the seats down because we're going to do a proper rear seat delete, and there's not much trunk space in it at all. Like it feels like the roof is low cut. But yeah,
it's still a joke.
Yeah, you can tell it's heavy though. I mean, it's a girthy car.
Yeah, and it's hard to like plan. I guess it's hard to plan ahead and like count on ETAs and like know what to actually expect from suppliers and stuff like that. Is that something you've had some issues with?
Well, I mean, we've been really fortunate with like flat plate metal. Our sources are all local, so we have a really good relationship with them. They're able to predict any major like delays, and we're able to like buy material ahead of time knowing some of that stuff. But it's things that you learn like through trial and error over the years. Like if you were to go back 5 years when we started the company, you would be blindsided by all these things and probably so overwhelmed that you'd be like, I think I'm just gonna quit. Like in today's society, I think everybody wants to make a purchase and I have to thank and blame Amazon all at once. That you make a purchase, you're like, dude, why isn't it here in 12 or 24 hours? Why don't you have a drone flying my battery mount across the country? And so you have to like balance that. And I think the easiest way to do that as a business owner is just to be honest. I think that's why we're still here. We're like relatable, personable, and super like blunt with just like, yo, it's just a few people designing, manufacturing this stuff from start to finish. We do our best to like stock stuff on the shelf, and past that, like when we're out because maybe we had a boom or whatever and we're selling a bunch of stuff, like you're just going to have to be patient because there's nobody that we're not going to rush quality to get quantity there. I mean, we make a lot of stuff now, but quality is still number one for us. So if it takes us 4 to 8 weeks to restock a product line, you're going to have to wait.
I'm sure people understand that because they, nowadays they rather have, you go through so many different products and you realize, you pay to play, right? And you pay for the more expensive stuff to do it once, and you write once and that's it. You don't have to worry about, if this is going to last or how long it's going to last for. And especially you guys offer lifetime warranty on the products too, right?
Yeah, yep. For as long as the company is around, I don't think people we should probably I joke about that, but like that's also a reality. But yeah, no, I mean lifetime manufacturing warranty on whatever we make. So and I call it that whole theory of like building a car. We've all started like with your first ever ship box that you ever got and started to modify. You'll like do the eBay mods or whatever because you just don't know any better. But nowadays, like as you get a little bit older, you have a lot more experience with building a car, that kind of stuff. You buy once, cry once. And that isn't the mentality of like what we're doing to with our product line. That isn't like the easy justification to say, oh yeah, like $250 for a universal battery mount. Like, holy shit. Like it's not like us trying to price gouge. That reality actually comes from small batch manufacturing. Like you got to be able to make something if you're making them as small as quantity 10 or as large as quantity 100 to 1,000. All of that at any given point in time impacts your pricing structure. So, but yeah, I mean, we're obviously proud of what we make and design and put in every single car known to man, it seems, all across the globe these days.
Yeah.
In every motorsport, we have our hands involved in. So we just want to make the best damn thing that we can. And in this case, it's a crazy, over-engineered, super versatile battery mounting system that finds its way into everybody's builds.
Which is amazing because I want to go back. Like I remember when the VSCIs first came out, it was my first new Subaru, and that was part of my job to always browsing the forums and Facebook pages. And I remember you posting first time about these battery mounts. I was like, oh, this is new. This is interesting. Like no one's done this yet, And then a couple years later, freaking exploded. And then it's crazy, something so simple yet so specific and say like versatile. Like you guys have adapted this to so many different product lines and chassis now. And we said like throughout like various motorsports, rally, drift. But talk to us about that growth of the business. Yeah, I don't think were you ever in the manufacturing business at all?
No, I was an OR nurse for a decade, teaching and leading at the top level of medicine here in Oregon, OHSU. So my formal background, like where all of the degrees and education come from, is operating on people. Absolutely none in the field of design and manufacturing, which is kind of funny the way that works as far as like the modern education system. It's kind of comedic. All of the money, time, sacrifice that has been invested in college education. If you look at where I'm at currently on the trajectory, it's not relevant with what we're doing. Granted, I still think it has its benefits. Being a nurse, practicing where I did at the type of level that I did, it all translates to like the attention to detail in the products and also knowing when to consult experts. So like, yeah, I'm not an engineer, but how did you come to over-engineer battery mounting solutions? You asked the right damn people. We launched our very first product for the VA chassis STI back in late 2017 is when we first started doing R&D. And it was motivated by, I literally left the teaching hospital and was headhunted to run another surgical unit for Providence, another large hospital system. And what I did when I left was went and bought an STI, like a brand new one. As like, oh, I just left one hospital. Let's go get myself a present as I start this new career venture.
You gotta treat yourself.
And yeah, absolutely. And it was my first STI. And I immediately recognized just a market need. Like nobody's adapting very small batteries, like direct fit to these. Could you fabricate your own? Sure. I know plenty of car builders, like literally top level car builders. They could weld something up. It'd look okay. But nobody was making a direct fit battery mounting solution for like the most common battery, which is at the time and still kind of is the Odyssey PC680. They've renamed it now the ODS like 16L for the 16 amp hour little tiny battery. So I call up Grimspeed and say, hey, I have a cool idea. Because again, I'm a nurse. I'm a career nurse. Like I have no intent in being a business owner. You guys should make a direct fit solution for this battery. And whoever picked up the phone that day is literally the reason to blame why I exist as a business. They're like, I don't think that's going to be a good idea. And I'm like, what? And like they said it in such a way that it kind of like insulted me. I was like, okay, I get that you don't know me. I'm just some regular consumer that'll spend money on stupid products, but cool. Like, whatever. I think you're wrong. And like we immediately went to the drawing board. I got to look up like the old napkin drawings that we had in true fashion of like, how do I want to house this thing? Where's the current market for like how do people mount batteries? Why do I think this is going to become sellable? Why do I think this is actually important from like an actual build standpoint? I've never been the one to build or modify cars for like looks. It's always function. Usually the first things you do when you get a car, for me, like we just got a new GR Corolla as a shop car. You change contact patch. Oh, I love them. And we've got some cool products actually diversifying what we're doing just as a battery company. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming out for them. But so yeah, I mean, immediately change out tire pattern. Like went and grabbed some Falcon FT660s because I always daily on Treadwear 200 stuff because like I want grip constantly. Cool, I got to replace them every 8,000 miles if we're not on track. I don't care. I just want the stickiest thing that we can. Yeah. Yep. But anyway, so like again, form over or function over form. So we start drawing up these battery mounting systems and figuring out how to install them where they're direct fit. Like you don't want anybody to drill because most people like the DIY market. I know it seems like it's pretty broad, but like from a sales standpoint, I really don't think people want like if it doesn't fit in and you don't have a detailed install video, you're screwed.
Yeah. Yep.
People get upset if they have to, well, drill obviously, or like any, and I think that's okay because you don't really want the average person like dremeling.
Yeah, no, it's
that there's gonna be problems. So, yeah.
Yep, I can agree entirely. You should have seen like the 9-page install video I had for again relative to this first product, VA chassis. The nurse in me, I wrote like a how to install a 3-bolt. There's 3 bolts, a 3-bolt process at the time, and like had detailed pictures. And we still would get like 100 phone calls a day going, "How do I install this?" You're like, dude, you aren't. What you're realizing is that the install stuff is not the problem. People don't read. So we immediately were like, shit, we gotta film a YouTube video. All of a sudden now we gotta have a YouTube channel, you know? And I know like we're late to the party realizing that in 2017, but we're like, we don't have a YouTube following to like make money there. I think that's a lost business cause. It just has to exist. Like if you're a valid business, you probably should have a YouTube channel. Whether you post there once every 6 months, that's fine.
Yeah. Yep. It's a resource to go to.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we make this product. It's direct fit. I wanted to make a full enclosure because everybody else is like, what do you get in the OE sense? You have a factory tie down. Why is that a problem? You're taking 2 J-hook bolts usually that have very low shear strength. You're taking what is a cheap, ugly stamped steel most of the time and like literally compressing it on top of all batteries are plastic cased.
Yeah, they don't like being
exactly. And what do people do when they're doing their own installs? They gorilla tighten the living piss out of them. So then all of a sudden they're doing that on like factory lead acid batteries, and you're getting leakage everywhere on a battery that 1 is just so outdated in tech, but 2, you have to service them. People don't realize that. Like, why is my OE battery failing? Well, when's the last time you added distilled water? Wait a minute, what? And so you have all of these things. I'm like, man, why are we getting away from this? The only reason OEs do this is because it's cheap. And they're, when you bring a car to market, people don't realize you have to like find these certain budget points. And this is like overly abundant again when you pick up the GR Corolla too. Why is the interior shit? Well, they're trying to make a car in today's like economic times that like literally will blow your socks off. But they also know that they can't sell it at $60,000 MSRP because like no one's going to buy it. We weren't even supposed to get the car in the first place. So again, it's all these things that you realize as you're, exposed to the market, you're mature a little bit. So anyway, we're making this mount. I want to do a full enclosure. I don't want to have folks like secure them in the traditional way. So you also want to make it look good. That's the thing that like we balance. It's like We originally were making these with like rivet nuts, like really like industrial, rugged, functional, where like you would form them. We made like this proprietary trenching thing on the CNC that like when you folded it, if you take a flat piece of metal normally and you bend it into a V, like you just like manhandle the thin piece, you'll have some stress fracturing that happens. We were making a trenching method with the CNC machine, like the very first one we had, to where you could form it and minimize that stress. And then you'd rivet it all together. So there was no welds because we didn't have that tool set in our initial launch belt, right? Didn't have anybody that could like do nice TIG welding. We're going to rivet the hell out of them. And they looked cool. And it was a full enclosure. What we found from that initial launch with just the VA chassis was that we were developing them not just for the PC680. I looked at all of the market competition for those batteries, and I'm like, let's make something that we can adjust internally with like hard foam and soft foam that is all of a sudden modular. Again, first in market. We were the first people to start rapidly doing that. And the response was so good that like when we launched the first product line on Instagram, we sold out in the first 24 hours. That was enough to me. Like, shit, I guess I'm still a nurse full time at this point, like full time and overtime going, I guess I got a company all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And there's enough market to demand that a bunch of randos, and I think product designers realize this as they launch a product, if it has like broader implications than you thought. Like I was literally just thinking about the 2015 plus STI and WRX. That's because that's what I own. That's what I was just literally looking at. All of a sudden, everybody and their brother's like, I want to do this too. Like make it easy for my car. So we rapidly expanded into the Fiesta ST for first in market, the Focus ST, Grimspeed had the Focus RS mount on the same battery all of a sudden. Literally 6 months after we launched, they're all of a sudden like, okay, let's do this. And then they start coming into the Subaru market in true fashion. And they're large. They're a larger company.
Yeah.
They're a multi-million-dollar company. They can do product development very quickly. And they were following us from day one, even though they said I had a shit idea.
I think your like comments about over engineering and like building something that's like plug and play.
Mhm.
There's definitely like that market that is tired of dealing with crap, and they kind of want to make their own thing because they're tired of dealing with crap. But I think they also accept that they could spend, I don't know, weeks, months making something that did what they want, and then when that's kind of, I mean, I'm kind of like that because I'm a nerd, but I also, if I see something off the shelf that fits and works and is exactly what I want,
Yep.
I'd probably just spend the money. So like that is it's still a small market when you have like, crappy products out there that you can Amazon next day and shows up at your door, and it's cheap and it might fall apart in a couple of weeks, but there's still those people that do want like the quality part that just works. So like for you, that like niche, how, I mean, obviously you were surprised by like the reception to it, but how nervous were you that like nobody would be interested in it? Was it just kind of like, let's just do it, this is a fun project, let's do it, see what happens? Or were you like,
Yep,
that was it? Okay.
100%, because like I was still committed. I have my day job is I go back to operating on people at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? Like now all of a sudden you're working a 16-hour day because you're coming home and you're firing up the machine and making a few, and you got to figure out packaging and like, oh, branding, and what's marketing, like holy shit. There's always that self-doubt that exists
Mhm.
today. And I own two companies. So like we spun off a proper like full-fledged media production company after we started the manufacturing company, and we are getting pretty well known for what we do in the production world. And that was literally like that came about because like we needed to make good videos and like relatable content and figure out this whole algorithm battle, which we still don't have figured out. Nobody really does.
Yeah, no, not
But,
unless
like,
you devote hours to it every day, right? It's yeah.
Yep. Well, I honestly like talking. We get to work with some of the best industry professionals on some of the productions we do, and nobody has it figured out. That's the real reality. They never get to come out public and be like, yeah, like you're not going to get a client like with that lack of confidence. But like, the reality is like it's just trial and error. Same as like a business owner in manufacturing. Like we know what works. We knew that we quickly realized how niche this product was. Like everybody said that, like, how can you make a full-time job out of just making little tiny battery mounts? Well, we don't make tiny battery mounts anymore. You take that same concept of a full enclosure and all of the benefits of that, and then you expand them. Like our most recent thing is like making direct fit OE application stuff for Crosstrek owners and the new Outback Wilderness. And what we're going after there is like Subaru puts really crappy batteries in these cars, again, to make a price point. They have a class action lawsuit against all of those lovely Panasonic wet cells. And so now we make battery mounts that'll work for those for a little while. And in theory, the way that they were designed, they should make your OE battery last potentially a little bit longer, just a theory. But then you can upgrade to a proper performance battery down the road. So it breaks up the purchase price for folks.
It's awesome.
You know,
Yeah, not everyone's looking for like, especially probably Crosstrek and kind of like Wilderness and Outback owners aren't always looking for like the lightweight battery, just a battery that has plenty of juice if they're out in the woods.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're not even targeting just the lightweight thing. It's so funny, like battery mounting, like when you talk about performance cars, right? Batteries, I still think today are the most misunderstood and overlooked performance modification in anyone's build. Anyone's build. Doesn't matter if you're going mall crawling or you're actually going to take that thing out to an HPDE or you're like a professional top level driver. Folks just overlook them. They don't think it's something that's valid until they deal with it.
Yeah, so most people it's towards the bottom of the list after they get everything else built on the car, right? It's
and especially for like nose heavy. I mean, nose heavy Subarus, especially the VA, when the bumper's like the battery's like on the bumper. It's so easy to like, and dropping 20-30 pounds right there actually does make a difference.
Massive.
Yeah,
we have proof. Like Moto IQ did a big thing on the percentage shifts of like proper weight balancing, a corner balancing a car, and like using our kits.
I was actually just like, that. That's a good article.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And like it's also fact. Like but that was never our original intent. You just realize it after you get in the mix of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
We were only focusing on AGM batteries in the beginning because again, those are like the next logical upgrade from wet cell. They're still very affordable for the masses. And then enter like in today's world, like lithium battery tech is mental. Like people don't understand. You have to do so much hand holding to explain the benefits of it. But we've been doing a lot of blog writing and work with anti-gravity now that we hold a manufacturing contract with them for all of their mounting systems.
Nice.
Just like the benefits of it if you decide to go that way. No pressure from us, right? Like it's not a sales tactic. I hate that because like when people call in or ask questions, I don't upsell them. Like, what are your end goals? You know, you can go this way or not. Read the stuff and make your own decision. And I think that's again another reason why we're here and growing is because like there's no like, well, I make way more money if I sell them a $900 battery. Like that's not it never crosses my mind. Like if it's the right fit, cool, go with it. If not, I'm not going to lose sleep over it at night. Go with something else more affordable, and I can show you a bunch of options.
So I want to go back because you were talking about how you modify your cars. Do you have a specific formula in which you go about modifying your car? Like battery weight, I assume, is a big thing.
It is, and that sounds like it's self-serving, but that's like number 2 or number 3 on the list. Like the GR, brand new platform, right? And they're very hard to get. We used every single motorsports connection in the world to get first on the list and to actually get our hands on one. And we still shows you where we are in the pecking order. We got it 4 months after they like first were dropped. First thing we do, change contact patch. Like that's literally, and I think this is like a tried and true formula. And I'll explain more about that. So yeah, first change your tires. That's the first thing we do. And then get some seat time in the car. That's a heavy car. I'll just keep it relative to that example. It's 3,280 pounds, I think, from the factory. It's a pig. It's not the GR Yaris that we wanted. But it has potential. It feels small. I mean, but we're going to be focusing a lot on weight reduction right out of the gate. And that's also motivated by like what the EPA is currently doing, a hot topic that nobody wants to talk about, but like where is the car modification market in the country going? I think it could very easily shift to where you don't get to tune your stuff as much as you want or at all. You'll have like the open source internet tuner, but will it be as reliable and trustworthy as some of the other guys that we've come to rely on over the decades? I'm going to say no. I pretty confidently say that that's not going to be the case. So what can you do to get performance out of your car? You start doing weight reduction, driver mod, and suspension mods. I think you're going to see potentially a massive spike in those companies that have that. And you might see some shift from folks that are all of a sudden not making headers anymore
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
downpipes.
I think we've started to
Because
see that. Yeah,
yeah,
we've
you
started to
have.
see
You
that.
actually, I know we have. I'm just like cautious to talk about it, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
no, no.
very true. Like,
I mean, you see, like the Cobb flex fuel thing, right? Like that's just a small
yep.
example, a very small example of the broad market throughout just truck guys, car guys, enthusiasts and all. But that was starting to trickle down, and I think that was like maybe the first thing that got the Subaru community's attention. But we always joke and talk about we're lucky that we didn't go to that route and we're stuck with suspension.
Yep,
Yeah, but we're
100%.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing companies that didn't historically delve into suspension kind of invent new brands at
oh yeah,
different levels of quality. Because they're new
oh
to
yeah.
it.
It's
I mean, this is at some level this is speculation, but I really do think it's a lot of just like dialing a number overseas and being like, hey, can we get this in this color? Done. And then they got 1,000 units at their door. And that's the extent of it. And they got their name on it and cool. But as you know, that takes a little bit more than that.
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think the next logical mod is to start looking at suspension once you've dealt with the driver mod thing a little bit, like figure out how the car handles naturally on its own once you're past the break-in period, all of that fun stuff. Suspension is the next logical thing. But then, yeah, you just see how oversaturated the market is with cheap suspension options. Nothing against them, but like Silvers and,
They serve a
Yellow
purpose.
Speed. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's just to lower the car and get that look, right?
that's literally it. Like, which pains me because, like, again, I'm always after performance. I don't care. Like, if you had to jack my ride height up another 50 millimeters, as long as it, the weight transfers where you want it and it does exactly what you need. But so much is just based on just looks and then good marketing.
Yeah,
Right?
I know.
And
Great
then
marketing, right?
yeah, and then this comfortable, for whatever reason, they figured out the balance point for like a comfortable entry level price point where people are like, yeah, I can justify that. $1,000 for coilovers. Like, you're like, shit, dude, you're not even touching the surface.
Yeah,
And I have this as relative. Like, my world was changed as far as overall suspension this year when we went to go shoot King of Hammers with Ford. I didn't realize that like 10 to 20 grand was literally entry level for these machines. That's like the poor man's like benchmark. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I'm just saying like
no, yeah,
30 to 40 grand for some Jeep owners, like that might get you something that can go over the whoops at 70 miles an hour and not make your head fly through your roof. And I'm like, my God, they make suspension that expensive? And then you're talking about like the trophy trucks, right? Like just to get an entry level is $1 million.
Yeah.
And like then they have like a $200,000 to $300,000 tow rig to get their $1 million entry level truck to where they're going to race. So again, my mind was just absolutely blown where you're just like, my God, like this is, oh, yeah. I mean, you get what you pay for. Again, the thing that you realize as you are in this long enough, and you're aging, you get some knowledge over that. And you're like, man, like, again, buy once, cry once theory, like, does everybody need 3-way adjustable coilovers for their daily driven car that they don't know how to, let alone autocross, shouldn't do like a back road canyon run? Probably not. Like, I'm realistic. But then there's some that are like, some guys that like to push those entry or those limits. There's always somebody like,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, yeah. I mean, there's somebody local that's like, again, there's always that one guy that wants to get the newest hot thing. And so there's a GR Corolla here that's getting tuned by John Reed. And for those that don't know him, he's like literally the Motec god in the country. John's not that far north of us, does a lot of tuning on a lot of our competition cars, whether we're racing stage rally, that kind of stuff. But like John's developing the Motec software for the Corolla. The guy's already got an X shift gearbox ready to roll. And then it's off to ETS to get, this is probably not super public, but it is going to come out eventually anyway. I don't know the owner. I just know that it's all happening. I'm very curious to see how he takes this $40,000 Econobox and like makes it a rocket. But ETS is doing full exhaust, downpipe, intercooler. all of that fun stuff. Because again, they're like right next to us.
Yeah,
The
it's
Pacific
all
Northwest is like ripe
Mhm.
with proper manufacturers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's always that one guy that just wants to take the limits and just
Yeah.
absolutely push them right out of the gate. You know, so
Yeah. And it's such an interesting topic, like looking even 5 years ahead. Like for us, I mean, the suspension, that's our thing. So it is not too concerning for like us from that point of view. The cars are always gonna need proper suspension, but like I think for us, we like to drive, so we're also function first people too, and the difference in how enjoyable a car is with crappy suspension, it makes it a chore. And I live downtown, so like it can be really bad to be on a suspension that's not set up like just like literally people don't want to get in your car, but there's people that don't know what good is supposed to feel like. And part of what worries me is like if the suspension market expands so much, like the bar for what's good, I don't necessarily think competition is going to make the average piece better. I worry that like the bar is going to get lower because there's so much more crap.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
that's
mean,
the part
that's a
I'm worried
realistic
about.
fear. Yeah, I mean, I think we could face that in our own product market too. I'm afraid of overseas competition. And that's not to like hold the yeehaw flag for American made. You should like, we're just literally trying to do the best that we can. And at the end of the day, if this fails, I can sleep well knowing that, I know I obviously risked a lot leaving medicine to start this, but everything we buy is local. We're making it all in house other than powder coating, but that's still done local. So
Yeah.
like, I don't think we would survive like too much market competition realistically. Like even at 5 years in, we're super small. Um,
Was that a
and
decision from the start to like keep it local? Was it like
Mhm.
was it
Yeah,
like
it's like
okay?
this Portland hipster thing. I mean, we're out of Portland, right? So like, I was just like, if I'm helping my local community from buying all of my nuts and bolts, my flat plate, all of that
Yeah.
stuff,
Mhm.
I'm helping their employees. Like that was all, and I've stuck to those guns. Like no joke, if I could probably add realistically 30 to 40% to our bottom line if I just outsourced. No joke. I refuse to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark my words. Like that's going to be the mound that I'm going to make my stand on. I'll close business. Like I don't. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean anything
that's
to me.
not your philosophy. It's not your values, right? You
No,
have certain ones, and yeah, no, that's awesome. Man.
you
Now,
just got to
now,
hold on to that.
so your product lines now, what do you like with the whole Japanese import scene coming over, like all these legal, R32s,
Yep.
33s, Evo 5s and stuff, especially Evos and stuff. Are you
Yep.
guys trying to transition into some of that as
It's already
well?
happening. I mean, it's been happening for a while. We've
Mm-hmm.
had customers all over the gamut in the proper JDM import scene. We don't have anybody like championing that from like, because you know how those like the people that set up those businesses, like they come and go. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Um, very often, especially on the West Coast, there's always somebody that can get a contact in Japan and start getting containers shipped over. So we don't have anybody from that side of it championing it. We should have somebody like Right Hand Drive or whoever else is still like around importing in large quantity. They should be upgrading to our stuff, I think, because like all of those old school low electrical demand cars are perfect for these kits. And they're very easy to install. But I think again, they're trying to manage a budget as well, where they don't want to add $300 to $1,000 on top of whatever else JDM import tax that they're doing, so to speak, for these cars. It might make them even harder to sell. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good following. We've got these things in so many different rigs coming over, and it makes sense. Like they're very easy to maintain. They're very easy to service. And if the battery happens to die due to your negligence, you can replace them really easy with a million other batteries.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
How did you
So
build like I mean, your car, your battery mounts are on like the Vermont sports car rally cars and extensively used throughout motorsports and on like Bucky Lassek's car and
yeah,
you
I
like
know
build.
Bucky.
Yeah. Well, so how did you meet Bucky, or how did you build those relationships with the various teams that are running your?
Yeah, exactly. I saw the latest video. Was it the boxing for the Brat
Yeah, yeah. That was, man, that was like
That's
6 months
badass.
ago too, which is so weird, like when it gets to come public. Bucky actually came to us on like year one. We were just doing a bunch of social media work, and you get a message in the DMs, and you're like, you gotta be flipping kidding me. Like, is this shit real?
Got the blue check mark, right?
Yeah, no, really. Like, seriously, I was like in an airport, and you're just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this isn't, I can't believe this. And he's like, yeah, I was gonna build my own, but then I just saw like a picture of yours. And like, again, we only had one model at that time. And that went into the bucket right away. But he's like, I was gonna hacksaw something up. But I was like, I love your kit. Would you like make me a custom one? And I'm like, yeah, dude, like no problem. And like I literally grew up playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Like, I just turned 37 this year, not to age myself, but like I grew up, like he's been a big role model my whole life. And we ended up putting one of these original kits in the trunk of it, and like you get a ton of like response from that because he's got a following. And then it just naturally progresses. And fast forward now, like Bucky and I are actually friends. I was just with him at Olympus Rally. I was actually racing while him and Dave are on doing the live stream. We've raced against each other. We're literally like the cornerstone of every one of his builds, because he's doing a lot of work with anti-gravity now. So, and he's the reason that we're doing stuff with Vermont Sports Car. Like we literally, well, that'll be coming out, but like we've already started to tease it that he's got one in the rallycross build that they just gifted him. So we're doing some pretty cool work in that. And I think it's for the same reason. You have lithium's a pretty cool technology, and it's what everybody's really switching to at the top level of competition. And it's, because they charge faster. They are far more efficient on the electrical systems. They're the lightest and most powerful thing you can get. And now they have cool features like built-in restart. So even if you do something absolutely stupid, it saves enough reserve capacity in that because it's got like an onboard battery management system that's smarter than your computer. It's wild. Like,
yeah, which is amazing because you don't need like these like portable chargers that you have to charge up USBs and overnight anymore to have stuck in your trunk. That battery's good to go.
So are they for people that don't know, they're daily driver friendly? Yeah, that's
100%. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is like trying to make this, like none of it is as niche as I once thought. Like battery technology in general and battery mounting and proper battery mounting, in my opinion, is for everybody. And that's not just to say like melee mount them all, the whole joke there that I say, but like that is some of the intent that like you're starting to see us push with the company while we're growing.
yeah.
Proving to folks that like having a proper battery mount that you can rely on and proper battery technology is key. I mean, these new technologies and some of the old stuff too, like you don't have to service them. They're non-spillable, so they're not going to like crack and leak and cause rust damage underneath that you don't realize for years because you never move your battery out. If you have to service them, like our quick latch system stuff is like bonkers. It takes less than a minute to pull a battery. If you, God forbid that you have to, but like if you do, you can do it with minimal tools and in record time. We should actually time somebody trying to do it. I probably electrocute myself.
You make a YouTube video of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just need to have somebody like high profile do it for us. Like call up one of our celeb friends. Well, maybe we'll do that for Hoon. I'll pitch that to the guys at Hoonigan soon.
Yeah,
like,
there you go. That's
I got $100 on whichever idiot can do this the fastest.
It will be millions of views within a day.
Yeah, absolutely. You just do something absolutely funny and make it look like the car caught on fire on accident and be like, well,
I did it wrong. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you do some co-driving, right?
Yeah, I'm the navigator in the car. I sit in the silly seat.
So was that after you started this business and left?
Yeah, I did. I was like your actual grassroots like HPDE and autocrosser prior to all of that. But like, yeah, I've always been hooked on stage rally, but didn't know what that barrier was to get involved. So we start the company year one, and because of like, I don't know if it's luck half the time, because I think a lot of that is actually mixed into a successful business. We land being the official school partner for Dirtfish year one in the company. So literally Dirtfish is running every single one of our mounts in every single car, and we're compiling a ton of data that we end up transitioning into what we call the Rally Spec line, which is like that what we learned in year one was like how to properly destroy stuff in a car that's driven by amateur students, literally 365. There's nothing that's that stressful on a car and its chassis and its systems. So yeah, I mean, that was my exposure to like my actual formal business exposure to stage rally, and it was just this natural progression. We started by like actually giving money to a couple of pretty good teams, so being a team sponsor right out of the gate at that same time, and then it just naturally transitioned to me getting pulled into the sport. And it's funny, like there's so many folks that will tie into like, oh, I'm just a driver. I had the opportunity to hop in the right seat, which is probably the scariest thing in the world, because you have no control. There is no brake pedal on my floor. There's no steering wheel on my side of the car. And it's this skill set where there's literally like the co-driver has the most amount of responsibility on a stage rally team, whether it be grassroots or top level. And there's something that just like hooked me on that. And I think it actually, now looking at it after 4 years of competition, it makes me a better driver when I get to just hop in the seat by myself. But there's something that, again, you don't get to experience in most motorsports. You don't have a teammate in the car. You can't, like, stage rally is something that you can't win unless it is a legitimate team sport. If you don't have a co-driver, you can't drive at the absolute commitment and full speed. So it's something that I absolutely love doing. And it's something that like you have to work really hard at. This last rally did not go well for us. We crashed day one. We had a car issue that caused the brakes to fail. So we boiled brakes 6 minutes into stage one, and we binned it into the trees, which is a real obvious hit to your confidence as well. Like, because you don't go expecting to like have a decent wreck that early. But the team was able to rebuild the car. We come back and we finished day two really strong. But I just wasn't there like at the commitment level that you need to be. Because I think it was realistically looking back, you're juggling too many things. Rally sponsor, you're known for multiple businesses in the sport and having to do like wear that hat while you're there, not just getting to like go in and just simply head down. I'm here just to be a co-driver. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, co-driving is definitely what I do, what I'm going to continue to do. We're stepping back for Oregon Trail in a few weeks, just because like the media company we're doing a lot of work for the blocks now.
Okay, nice.
Lucy and Leah, which we were for Olympus. I just was competing against them. So now I'm not going to be doing that.
Are you guys in the same class?
No, Lucy was, but Leah's not. She's an open 2-wheel drive, which is top level, like high, like unlimited horsepower, so to speak, unlimited mods, 2-wheel drive. We are in unlimited 4-wheel drive.
Gotcha. Okay.
We have traction all the time in the current car.
She's in a BRZ, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the white BRZ.
It's built by a good buddy of mine, Derek Nelson. We know him well, and we know the car well. And yeah, she'll be one to watch. Both of them. I mean, Lucy in the Rally 3 car, the Ford Fiesta, that's a monster of a car.
Yeah. No, she's definitely shown her skills, and it's exciting to see. Yeah.
So you've got a relationship with Dirtfish. Have you done the school there or the co-drive?
I did both. I drove there originally right when they opened up back in 2012.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's on I actually go into Portland in November, and I think it's 2 or 3 hours from Portland, right?
Yep, it's 2.5 hours north of us. When you come into Portland, let me know.
I will. Yeah. I think I'm going to do the Dirtfish school because I should.
Yeah. Well, you totally should. Any like driver that you talk to that say, you want to improve driving skills, like rally is so, I feel like, versatile in the sense, like, in terms of car control, right? Like if any situation that comes about, whether you're on track or, too much oversteer, understeer, that, I've heard that rally experience, like, will just, intuitive at that point, right? After you agree. Rallying school.
I think I can expand on that in terms of like, because the sport races in any condition, it's not like F1 that if like snow comes down or too much rain, like things you'd see get canceled. Same in NASCAR even, actually, because like we work in that realm, or IMSA even. So on the media end, but I'm just saying stage rally, if it's snowing, guess what? You're going racing. Doesn't matter what the weather forecast. So because you're driving and learning to function at the limits, no matter what the road conditions doing or the weather, it translates like to just daily drivers too. Like I think you'll probably see some of that. Dirtfish has tried to start pushing that, and other rally schools in the country as well, where like send your teens here to learn to slide. And this is not to encourage them to go drifto-missile it like in their high school parking lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's to teach them to like not panic all of a sudden if your back end steps out because you hydroplaned or you had to make an evasive maneuver. Stage rally, I think, is absolutely beneficial, like just the fundamentals of it in making you a better driver. And I would go as far to say like you can take a stage rally driver and in any other level of motorsport and they would probably transition okay, but that's not the case all of a sudden if you take somebody like a dedicated road course racer. And I've seen this personally where you take them and they just go in and like they understand car control and dynamics, but not on gravel or not on mud or not in the snow. They don't necessarily always transfer over to good stage rally drivers, because also you have to rely on not just reading the road, reading the forest. You have to listen to somebody else going, listen, like you need to do exactly this on this right or this left, and this is how the road's going to change. And people, that's overwhelming them. I can't think of anybody that I haven't actually had good relations with now with starting what we're doing, because again, everything's still battery dependent, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. That's how we knew that we'd grow. Because everybody still needs a battery. Even the electric cars, they're running their auxiliary crap off of wet cells right now. I think we'll push more into Teslas. I was going to go into
that. Yeah, the whole electricity, EV era, and they completely skipped over the hybrid, which I think is crazy. But how are you guys preparing for that? As you said, like they're still running auxiliary power through the wet cells, right? They don't have like you would think they put in lithium-ion batteries, but it's probably too expensive.
A lot of them don't, because I think it impacts the bottom line or MSRP of the car. I know of the nightmares that when you kill your Tesla, in order to jumpstart that thing, you got to pull off some panels on the bumper to get access to the positive negative thing, because it's literally like shut down. So if you kill your battery in that thing, it's a real nightmare to even get access to the car. Yep. And so lithium, I think, will continue to play a role. We don't even push that market. I'm sure that there's somebody that's installed them that hasn't told us. But it's something that, like, I don't know. You also talk to all of the battery guys that have been at it for 30, 40 years. This whole push for electric is not something of a new phenomena. And even though you start to see some countries saying, oh, we're going to be all electric by 2030 or whatever, I don't think that's actually realistic.
I agree.
And this goes deep into some conspiracy stuff, but I think the control of oil on everything, like the lobbying that they're doing, things like that, like we're going to have like gas vehicles for quite a while. So like
on top of that, I think the infrastructure, like it's all they have is Tesla chargers now. Now that they open up their chargers for other people to use, it's great, but like even here, like unless you have a home charger, it's hard. It's hard to live with the EV day to day. Or for me, I drive 70 miles a day. And that easily over time is a lot of miles, and it's just like the thinking of I have to park my car somewhere else to charge it to walk home it's just a headache.
I mean, they're blistering fast. Don't get me wrong. I've been in some pretty wild ones. But then like there's just no driver feedback. It's cool for instant torque. Like we had one of our clients for a Ford sponsored driver, and he like gave us the Mach-E that they had for a week, so we got to rip around in that. It's crazy because like you can rip at 100 miles an hour through a neighborhood, they don't even hear you coming, but it's like there's no feedback. Like you don't, other than the Jetsons sound, and you're just like, that gets weird.
I would like to see a sports car hybrid that's like not a McLaren Senna or something like that, but like an attainable sports car hybrid. Eventually, the STI will be an EV. I don't know if it's going to be a hybrid or EV. I forget what they said, but I do think it's possible to be cool and fun. I don't know. The lack of like connection is not just an EV thing right now with cars. I think most cars don't have much feeling at this point.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. Like, they're all of the nannies that cover up like driver mistakes. The tech's pretty wild. Like you can make a terrible driver, an average driver, just with some of the sensors and settings on some of the cars. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and the brake by wire and the super overboosted steering, and it just doesn't feel real. And that's I don't know.
I don't know about you, but that's why when I still love my STIs, the hydraulic steering rack,
that
fucking
was
love it.
It's seriously like it's one of the most raw feeling cars that there was for that time. Like the new cars, the RS Focus RS didn't have that, right? It was all electric, and had all of these crazy modes.
The electric steering on the BRZ is really good, so it's not impossible. It's just I don't know. I think that the manufacturers have decided that buyers don't want to feel anything.
Yeah, seriously, they just want to get in and be numb. The GR Corolla steering, now that you mention it, like now we just hit like break in and like put really sticky tires on it. It's wild how heavy it feels like turning into corners for the first time, like and being able to like throttle into it now that it's properly broken in. I actually was just realizing that the other day, like, damn, this actually got like really heavy, but it almost feels too heavy. You're like, why? Almost like you're not like binding up, but you're waiting for that to happen. Like, wait a minute, I can see through the corner. Why am I binding up right now? Like, why does it feel like it's so heavy?
You got the Falcon RT 660s. What size?
245 40. And that's you can't go any wider. You can fit 265s easily on the car. But then I don't want to be on a 30 series sidewall in Portland. That's a recipe, even 40, honestly, if you're being realistic, in most people's cities, that's a recipe for a bent wheel. And so I just went with 245s because it gives you, and there's another thing. There's a manufacturing issue with I was trying to get the RE71 RSs, can't get them currently in that size. I forget who the other major, AO52s. Those are in unobtainium right now. Especially in this very common size, right, for an 18-inch wheel.
Right.
The FT660s is what it was, just to get the stickiest tire that you could.
And they're still not bad tires either, considering that 200 treadwear group.
Nope, I think they'll be okay. It's my first time on Falcons. I'm usually I'm a hardcore Bridgestone guy. I do like the AO52s if you ever get your hands on them, but
I've heard great things about them.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the tire to beat right now. I mean, so we'll probably get a set, once they come back in stock.
Do you have any races coming up soon?
Well, I stepped down for Oregon Trail. I think again, just realizing how much business is intertwined right now with State Rally and me competing. We have Southern Ohio coming up the first week of June. As well, and I don't know if I'm going to compete with that either. I might just be doing media stuff. It's one of those ones where I just don't think I'm quite capable of being a fierce competitor and having business presence. And so I'm not doing it selfishly. I'm trying to do it just for fun. So I got to just step back and work on business.
Got to find that right balance there.
Yeah, and I think with some of that, I might be shifting back to doing more of the Lucky Dog endurance racing stuff, which I like to do. Did a bunch of that the last couple of years. I might find myself, because that's not as, I don't have to have a business presence there and just show up and rent a car and drive and go home. And I kind of like some of that stuff. Have a new baby on the way. Our first baby's coming up. So we're starting a little late in the game, but I think I'm going to want to stay focused on some of that.
That'll keep you busy.
Whether I want to. Yeah, whether I want to or not, who are we actually kidding?
You'll be able to knock out all the emails early morning, no worries.
yeah, seriously.
But you did some overseas travel last year too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because of the clients we were representing, we shot a proper documentary for Discovery Channel and did a lot of, I was only home 100 days last year. The travel isn't as crazy as that. We're doing a lot more local commercial work. We will be more than likely traveling with some of the other stage rally stuff that we have, but that's just North America. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just all depends on what clients. That's the thing that changes in the media world too. It's just a whole nother episode of craziness. Whoever comes knocking, whoever they are, if it's big enough and important enough, like you just
Yeah.
make the time. Like
Yeah.
Ford calls you up, you don't just be like, oh well, like even with a kid, like no joke, like the other half knows that like for the
Yeah.
sustainability of the business, if they call up and say, hey, we need this, and like you get 2 days notice, guess what? You're packing your bags and you're gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
just the nature of the game. Otherwise, somebody just as ambitious or
Mhm.
skilled will fill that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
I will definitely let you know when I'm in Portland.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, I'll give you a good time. It'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah. Any shout outs or
Where can people
Oh, I'm
find
so
out?
bad at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like
You got a shirt. You're good. You got the shirt on.
I'm pretty good with the branding. I don't know. That's luck, I think, at this point. No, I mean, if folks want to learn more about MeLe Design Firm, they can check us out on our Instagram at MeLe Design Firm. It's MELE Design Firm. Same on Facebook. Our media company, if folks want to see some of the weird, crazy commercial work we get to do, it's at MeLe Media. It's _ MeLe Media on both TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Our websites are pretty fun too. They're pretty well designed, I feel. So we're staying at least current and trending there. So,
Nice.
but yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of these days. So
You can actually call.
Yeah. Call
and
not
get a human being.
yeah, and it's me. It's usually me because it's routed to my damn cell phone. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
like better or worse, but
I
like
think that's what gives a good business. Like that's how we're like
Yeah.
our lines are routed to Maz's cell phone. Like he gets calls on the weekends while he's at the racetrack, filming and stuff, and then helping out some other guy at some point trying to dial in their suspension.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome that you do that because it's very hard to
It's
find
hard.
nowadays.
I've had to like step in, like substitute miles like
Yeah.
a couple of times in the past, and
Yep.
you just get calls at the most random times, and it's
oh yeah,
it's
usually
wild.
or like race weekends when things are shut
Yeah.
down. That's when the phone just blows up, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. Or like sales volume just plummets, or I mean, not plummets, at the sky. Right? You're like, shit, like no one's home. Like we are gone for the week. Like sorry, should have got that order in before. Like nothing personal, but like I can't multitask like that.
But it's important
Yeah, it's
to be
funny.
there.
Miles has helped me a ton of times on suspension stuff because I've been running RCE stuff on the Subaru like literally forever.
Cool.
Awesome. So yeah, I got plenty of ties to RCE over the years.
Yeah. Cool. We appreciate it, Mitch. Yeah. We gotta get some battery mounts in our cars. I know Drew's got a lightweight battery coming.
Yeah,
I got one coming as well. So we
Good.
definitely
You let me know how we can help. We'll get you all sorted. I'm not worried about that at all. Just tell me what
Sounds
applications,
good.
and yeah, well, I'll get you squared away.
Cool. All right, Mitch. Appreciate it. Thanks for your
Awesome.
time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yep. Have a good one.